Let's see. I think we got lift off here.
I hope so.
All right.
I want as many people as possible to catch this
so. Catch the wave.
Catch this action. We're gonna get some sort of exclusive kind of revelation. I want to believe.
You might be right there.
We're gonna learn. We're gonna learn stuff.
We're gonna learn.
That most of it.
Okay, hold on.
Yep.
Boom bump. Dun 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 bump. All right, I hear music.
You do, but I don't.
You don't hear music?
Nope.
Huh, interesting. Uh-oh.
I hear you. I don't hear the music.
Well, the music is playing.
Hey, everybody, I'm just riffing, doing an acoustic.
Okay, now it's...
Wait, no.
Doing the music is low, getting lower. I don't know why you can't hear it.
On the Tara Show, doesn't matter. I know how the song goes. I'm a musical individual. Hey, everybody, welcome to the Tara Show. It's a very special episode of the Tara Show, and that it is all Epstein. All Epstein because my senator, ranking Democratic member of the Senate Finance Committee, Ron Wyden, will be joining us at the bottom of the hour. Yeah, guys, did you hear the music in the chat, Jim? Because I heard nothing.
Yeah, I'm just
but anyway,
asking.
Hey, thanks for being here, Jim.
No, they didn't hear it. Okay.
They didn't hear it. Okay, maybe it was just in your head. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
But anyway, my Senator Ron Wyden is going to be joining us for a tight 15 as he's traveling Eastern Oregon, talking to the people. He's holding town halls. The man never sleeps. I'm just going to read a little bit about my Senator Ron Wyden. He serves on the Finance Committee, Budget Committee, Intelligence Committee, and Energy and National Resources Committee, ranking member of the Senate Finance Committee, senior member of the Energy and National Resources Committee. So, I don't know when he sleeps. I do not. But what I do know is that he's a very good man who's doing very good work, doing deep dives into this Epstein file stuff, and not just the unspeakable acts that were performed upon these children, these girls, these stolen girls. Not just that, but the Russian ties to this international sex trafficking ring, and that the U.S. Treasury has its own Epstein files, and they have wire transfers. They have 4,725 wire transfers between Jeffrey Epstein and the Russian banks. One wire transfer alone was 1.1 billion. So as we were saying, how much does it cost to finance an international sex trafficking ring?
Right, especially
about 500 billion.
When Trump is coincidentally also running a Miss Teen beauty pageant that in Russia. I mean, it does kind of beg the imagination, or bugger. What do they call that? Beggar the imagination? I don't know what it is. It does. It makes your head explode, especially when the Republicans, these maggots, are so, they're like McGruff the crime dog with conspiracy theories, yet they don't see the conspiracy right here, in front of their faces.
No, well, they don't want to. No, I mean, I think that on the surface, they know they've been lied to repeatedly, and they don't really know what. And so, but they just have that group think of, oh, today this is our messaging. Today we're attacking this. Today we're saying this. Tomorrow we're going to do this. Jim, yes, you'd be interested in Wyden's take on what's happening in Gaza. I think, yes, very much so. Today we only have him for 15, and today we're only talking about the Epstein files. I don't
That's
want.
What he,
I mean,
he agreed to that, right? So to come on.
That's as I was going back and forth with his guy, because I got a guy. I know a guy who knows a guy. So the guy on his team is like, we're only talking about Epstein. I was like, cool. Now here's the thing. Ron Wyden is going to be hosting a town hall in my county within the first 2 weeks of September. I know that they're still trying to lock it down. That is a time for people to show up and ask those questions. And those are valid questions to ask. But today only is Epstein. And I think that is a issue that we can deal with more realistically also in this moment, because Gaza is a tremendous debacle that seems insurmountable at times. This is not. This is a giant bunch of information. But this is all stuff that the American people have a right to know about. And yes, next, I mean, Jim, we'll see what happens, right? I mean, I'll be curious. Just, I mean, one of the things that I'm going to be asking Senator Wyden when he joins us, and we are expecting him to call in at about 11:30/2:30. What does he think we're going to see tomorrow? Because the slow rollout from the House is happening tomorrow. Now, you can't drop all of the Epstein files at once. It would be the equivalent of saying, here's the Empire State Building. Read everything inside of it. So it'll be I'm curious to see, to know what he thinks we're going to get first. And then what would be a follow-up from that? What would be the next thing? And then what does he think the fallout will be? Because MAGA's like, there was a recent poll verified by Snopes that 47% of whatever the polled sample, but 47% of Trump supporters would stay loyal to him even if it was revealed that he was this pedophile sex trafficker. So what do you do with that? How could you possibly? I mean, to me, I cannot comprehend, and this is something that we also talked about when we had John Fugelsang on the show. How you call yourself a Christian and you look the other way when this man is raping children.
Well,
like,
it's the same way.
I don't get it.
It's the same way the slave-holding South could quote the Bible and call themselves Christians while they held other human beings in bondage. They don't consider these people. They don't consider them to be people. That's what it is. That's the blind spot. They really don't.
Correct. That's, at the center of this issue is Republicans continuing to double down and help him cover this up. And so one of the things I would like the senator to be able to speak to is what they plan on doing once they come back from recess, because my take is the first order of business is to make one great big fat impeachment proceeding and just get him for the obvious 2024 election interference, bringing Putin to America, hosting a international war criminal on American soil is treason. So that's impeachable. Yep. And then all of this with Epstein is all of that is impeachable. So we have multiple things to have him impeached for. And I just want to know, like, we're getting this stuff. What are we getting? And then what is going to happen once we get it? Because if his wall of MAGA obstinance is like, we still won't believe it. Again, you don't have to believe the truth for it to be true. You don't have to like the truth for it to be true. You don't even have to accept the truth to be true. If you want to live like an ostrich and be like, no, that didn't happen. He did too. I mean, that's a choice. You can live like that, but it won't change the fact that he still owes Eugene Carroll $100 million for raping and defaming her.
And he still won't give her the money he owes her. And this is what I'm talking about.
He keeps losing.
But you keep, not just you, but we're all hope springs eternal here. But what Comer is going to release tomorrow it will be, whatever it is, it's something that will cover Trump's ass. No doubt.
I mean,
no doubt.
If he releases anything that still has redactions, you will know that Donald Trump's name is beneath those blacked out lines.
Yeah. But just given their behavior so far, right? I mean, they're it's so sus.
Well, I love the claim that they're protecting the victims when they could not care less. If you cared about the victims, you would be screaming for the files to be released.
That's right. And you wouldn't have given Ghislaine Maxwell her cushy new digs at Club Fed and work release. It's an offense, an absolute disgrace.
And allowing any narrative to be put out into the world that she was a victim. I mean, it's abhorrent. That's abhorrent. But they will, of course, try anything. And the GOP is really, I mean, they have never had such bad PR in a moment, because they have this Epstein files thing that they're dealing with. They imprisoned a black woman in Texas for 2.5 days. The redistricting to turn Texas into a MAGA hat, all of this. And then while they're, of course, tanking the economy because the big bullshit bill, we are starting to feel the financial effects and the tariffs, and like coffee is up 14.4, 14.5%. and all of this craziness, and they're doing this cosplay in Washington D.C. with the National Guard, all as a distraction,
Yeah.
from what we're about to talk about with my Senator Ron Wyden. So it's, again, like, when we were talking about this the other day, like how we should never run for office because we'd be nightmare candidates. Like, it's in this moment where it's like, you're so I'm grateful that we have this sort of place to sit where we have the freedom to talk about how absolutely immoral and irresponsible and how unconscionable and how far this nation has fallen when it comes to basic decency.
Just it's not even a year.
Basic.
And we're already, I mean, that's what they're so disgusting. I'm writing an article about how Trump is pining for a Nobel Peace Prize when he is one of the most prolific murderers, killers on the planet. How many? God. I mean, he turned America into a land of mass graves. That's right. The death from COVID, the botched COVID response, and now this big ugly bill killing, not just cutting social safety nets to make the rich richer and setting us up for so much failure, and also all the death he's caused, causing and will cause around the globe by cutting USAID and everything else, vaccination programs, and anyway, I don't want to get off track on that, but it's all connected.
No, and do we need to remind people that Kamala Harris and Tim Walz would not be doing this? Do we have to point that out in any way? And before we have Ron Wyden join us, just the 2024 election is really roaring back in the news because it's statistically impossible to win all 7 swing states on election night, according to Grok. Grok told me because I asked what are the odds, and the odds are barely 1%. So I still don't understand why Democrats didn't demand an immediate forensic audit, an immediate recount, especially in the swing states. Even in just 2 or 3 swing states would have shown that there was. And so I've repeatedly shared links to This Will Hold on Substack, because that's the Substack that's putting up all of this information. So, maybe we can tackle that at some point too, Democrats. That'd be great, because it seems to matter. So that's all part of what we want to see when they come back from recess. We want to see them. They should just make a great big impeachment cake and throw it in his face.
Well, that's what they're afraid of, and this is why he just illegally gerrymandered Texas and
turned it into a MAGA hat. Wants the Smithsonian to stop talking about slavery. Use black people as a scapegoat to distract from Epstein.
They're make no mistake, they are waging war against America. And I would say, not just blue states, they're waging war against America, because in the blue states, we are the bastions of democracy. We are the ones carrying the mantle of the American Revolution, founded in the liberal age of enlightenment, where we threw off the king and the aristocracy to promote the general welfare, all that stuff. That's what we're trying. We're trying to, carry this American Revolution to and make sure that it remains for the next generation. And Republicans, just think of the fact that that red state governors are sending their National Guard into D.C. How dare they? Could you imagine?
Not necessary. Not necessary. Crime is down 30% in D.C. D.C. was free before you started this cosplay bullshit.
Exactly. But it's just an offense. If California sent their National Guard, why don't they send their National Guard into poorly run red states that are the murder capitals of the country, and crime is out of control? Maybe Newsom will do that next. Right. Why not? And why not? But could you imagine and that's what I'm talking about. They hate this country. They treat people, especially those who actually wear the uniform, they treat the people like pawns. Like we're nothing. That's what I'm saying. It's all connected because, like you're saying, with the Epstein files and how they treat that they don't even consider the victims to be human beings. They're nothing.
No,
they're nothing.
They're trash.
Just like the National Guardsmen and women.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of which, let's quickly, before Ron Wyden joins us in 15 minutes, talk about the Epstein Files investigation by the Senate Finance Committee. Can we pull up that first one the little bit of that video that I sent you this morning with Ron Wyden talking tough about Epstein and the Senate Finance Committee's investigation and the U.S. Treasury's Epstein Files, because the language that Senator Wyden uses around the Epstein Files is the correct language. And the way he frames it is the correct way to frame it, in that calling Epstein what he was, calling Donald Trump what he is, saying that there are thousands of names of women and girls in these files, along with 4,725 wire transfers. There he is. Take a listen to my senator's fire.
The figure at the center of this story was an
Is it playing?
sex trafficker.
It was.
He was a serial rapist of women and young girls. And for some reason, the Trump administration, that claimed they'd be the most transparent administration ever, turned on a dime. The president had run on a campaign with a promise to expose the Epstein files. Now he and the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, say, nope, nothing to investigate. When it comes to Epstein and sex trafficking, all these claims are just ludicrous. I want the American people to know that that's wrong. If you want to know why, just look at the latest report from our investigators that was discussed in the New York Times this morning.
That no one talked about.
Somewhere in the Treasury Department, Mr. President, locked away in a cabinet drawer, is a big Epstein file that's full of actionable information. Follow the money details about his financing and operations that await investigation. Last year, the Biden administration allowed our investigators to look at portions of the file. We did that at the Treasury building. Here is what it says. Treasury's Epstein file details, Mr. President, 4,725 wire transfers. Let me repeat that. 4,725 wire transfers, adding up to nearly $1.1 billion flowing in and out of just one of Mr. Epstein's bank accounts. If you ask me, that is more than 4,000 potential lines of investigation right there.
See,
Hundreds
and I think
of millions.
Yeah, I think that in and of itself is the reason why America needs to see everything that's in the Epstein files. Because going back to 2016, when Trump was like, Russia, if you're listening, and then they deny any ties to Russia repeatedly, and then he brings the Russian dictator to America. And all because, well, I mean, if the Treasury has their own Epstein files, imagine what Putin has. Putin has his own Trump file.
No doubt.
With
more.
And remember when Sherry Jacobus was on with us, she thinks that he's got something even worse than a P-tape. She thinks he's got a snuff film.
Wow.
And our friend Hal Sparks, who will be with us next Thursday, Hal Sparks always says the big compromise, it's either live boy or dead girl. That's what they're all hiding. So that's my senator, and I'm so proud. Both of my senators, my other senator, Jeff Merkley, who's running for re-election in 2026, both of them are doing the work that we need Democrats to be doing, which is they are fully obstructing what the Trump regime is doing. And they're vocal about it, and they are out there pointing out exactly what's wrong about this, why it's wrong, why Republicans should be standing with Democrats on this, because this is not Democratic or Republican. This issue is not about what it says on your voter registration card. This is about basic humanity. This is about children being raped. This is about children being stolen. This is about children being sex trafficked. Children being sex trafficked. And repeatedly, we see people who identify as Republicans, people who identify as MAGA, people who identify as Christians, repeatedly getting busted with child porn on their computers. It just happened again yesterday or the day before. We heard about
Which
another one.
Oh yeah.
Oh my!
I forgot to set my clock.
I know, right? Wait, I should just put on. You know what? I should just create a Google alert. I have a Google alert from myself.
There's an ongoing list on the daily codes of Republican pedophiles.
Perfect. So if you bring them up, they might have added them because and another person who it's either someone who's a deacon in the church or someone who's like a local representative on a school board or what, or it's the president, or asterisk. But it's this obsession that the Republican Party have with children and the way they speak about children is so unhealthy, because on the one hand they claim they care about children, but they don't. They care about the white preborn, and then once they are out, then they want them to be indoctrinated and enslaved to grow up to make more white babies. That's about it, right? They don't care what happens in between.
That's why
release from the host body until they die. They don't care about that.
They don't. They don't care about that. They are protecting pedophiles, and it's really right out of Freud. Freud would have a field day with these people because I
don't get it.
It's psychological projection. They are projecting outwards the very thing that they hate in themselves, and if they can control society, then they won't be as repugnant as they are. That's why the biggest screamers about gays or trans, they're in the closet, and then you'll catch them in the act of being themselves in a public restroom.
Every accusation is a confession.
And if they would only get help, it's like that R.J. May guy. That's one of the latest. He's a maggot, and he was just arrested for some of the most disgusting child sexual assault material that he was sharing with his fellow bottom feeders. And
is that the age of consent guy?
No, I'm not sure, but there
was that one guy that got the age of consent lowered.
Oh, okay. Maybe,
right? Yeah, because he was trying to he had stalked, or he was basically like To Catch a Predator.
Oh, okay.
And he's someone in the local government. Might have been in Arizona. I want to say.
Yeah, he's from South Carolina.
I can't keep. Oh, okay.
R.J. May.
I don't
he's
know.
a Bible thumper.
You're talking about R.J. May.
Yeah, that's. But he his handle or whatever on his on this platform where these disgusting wastes of human DNA shared images of raped children, child sexual assault material, including infants and whatnot, where his name was Joe Biden, like 1969. Right?
My God.
It's right out of Freud. It's not me who's the pedophile. It's Joe Biden, right? It's Dems. It's you.
All of that stuff that they say is fake. And when they started with the Pizzagate,
right.
That's Epstein. That's a sex trafficking ring. They're talking about. I believe that there was within this huge sex trafficking ring, there was a girl who once worked as a waitress or something, or there was somebody who got taken from a pizza restaurant or something like that, where it was like a real thing, maybe not the basement of a pizza restaurant or in Baltimore, but there was a girl who had been groomed and taken from, and that's where the essence of the story came from, or some sort of Epstein, like the game of telephone, where it's like, this is the Epstein sex trafficking ring, but I'm going to tell you this, and I'm going to say Democrats, and then you're going to make it up, and you're going to say it was Hillary Clinton. So basically, everything that we know and everything that they say is what they've done. So when you hear Trump saying, I'm at the bottom of the totem pole, And I really want to, maybe I'll go to hell, but I really want to go to heaven. But I hear I'm not
He knows
doing
he's
so
going
well.
to hell. Yeah, I hear.
I'm not doing so well.
Well,
I
you
hear I'm
kill
not doing
millions
so well.
when you turn America
You know
into a
what that
land of
is?
mass graves. What's that?
I think he got a little bitch slapped by Daddy Vladdy. That's why they cut the
I
whole
hear
thing
he's not
short.
doing so well. Yeah,
I hear,
maybe
I hear
that's
I'm not doing so well. So I'm at the bottom of the totem pole. It's very easy for Daddy Vladdy to say, all I have to do is release Epstein's file.
right.
Is all I have to do.
Well,
he's got him.
Yeah,
That's why
he's
he didn't
Putin's
stay for the
fixer.
fancy lunch.
Yes,
he
but
showed up for the photo op, played him for a sucker like he always does, and then he left.
Yeah, he
So,
gave
you
just like
know-
he did with Kim Jong Un. He gave Putin this legitimacy that he desires. He's a pariah on the world stage, as he
Right.
should
Ah,
be. And
Peter in the chat. There was a guy, someone in a family was facing statutory rape charges, and they sponsored a lot of.
oh, that's no, you're
That
right.
guy.
I actually wrote an article about that. Why can't I remember it?
yeah.
The guy.
So,
let me see. Yeah, I
And it was and it's like another old wizened man who wants to be able
Yes.
to have a 13-year-old or something.
No,
right?
he,
which
no,
also
that-
happened in Tennessee. That happened in Tennessee. Marsha Blackburn wanted to lower the age of consent in Tennessee
Well,
so
who
that
was
child
that?
marriage
Who
could
was
be a
that?
thing, and they could also put kids to work.
Right, but it was a MAGA influencer too. I think it was like Charlie Kirk, and it's all of them. Matt, what's the other one? The one, what is a woman, asshole? Matt Walsh.
Matt Walsh.
Yeah, they talk about how, well, back in the day, women were at their peak when they were 13, and that's what they talk about. That's what they were made for. And women, they're not women, they're girls. Well, back in the day,
They're
we used to live in
girls.
fucking caves and shit in the woods, too. So, I don't know. I don't exactly call that the good old days, but they do.
We just got a message from the Wyden campaign. He's at a press conference in Northeast Portland right now and running a little late. He'll be calling in at 11:40/2:40 instead of on the 30.
Well, at least he's still...
Yes, thanks. And yes. As long as he calls, it doesn't really matter to me when he calls. It's that he does call, and I don't.
After
I'm
all
glad I checked.
this, after the...
Glad I checked. Yes, and I'll keep that open just in case.
Yeah,
Okay,
this
cool.
is that one was in Utah. That now that I'm looking it
Utah
up, I
makes
wrote
sense.
this article. Yeah,
Makes
Utah.
sense. That makes sense.
He had an 18-year-old relative that had sex with a 13-year-old, and they quickly changed the law, saying that if you're still in high school, then you would qualify to have your charges reduced to a misdemeanor. So instead of becoming a sex offender, which is automatic, you would automatically be on the sex offender registry. Just the fact that they quickly got together to change the law, and there's already carve-outs in the law in Utah that allow young people, let's say close in age, to have sex. Like a 13-year-old and a 15-year-old, if someone finds out, you're not 13-year-old.
Do they have to do it inside the Mormon church?
Well,
Is
yeah.
that part of the rule in Utah?
Probably, because it's another way of how they control young girls and women, and
Mormonism is to me like what I would love to, when we get John Fugelsang back or we go back on his show, I'd love to talk to him about Mormonism, because of all of the made up religions, that one is the most ridiculous.
Yes.
And it's also on my mind because my son and his girlfriend just got to New York City very late last night, by the way. Thanks delays. Thanks Sean Duffy. It's fine. But they got there. They didn't get to their hotel until 3 a.m, poor kids. But anyway, they're seeing Book of Mormon tonight on Broadway. And so that has been, and I don't know if you've ever seen it.
I
it's
have
the
not.
funniest.
Yeah.
I want you to know it's the funniest.
No, I
thing
know
in
it's
the
great.
entire
I
world.
heard.
It is so, because it's written by the South
still
Park
running.
guys, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's an easy ticket to get. If anybody wants to go to a Broadway show, that's a good get. You don't have to wait like you have to do for Hamilton. But it's worth it because, and they've updated it from when it first was written, but it's still hella racist and inappropriate and everything that you would expect from the South Park guys. But it's the big opening number by itself is worth the price of admission because it's so good. And it's how the Jehovah's Witnesses ring your doorbell, and it's all that. It's ding, hi, would you like to hear about a book written by Jesus. It just gets funnier from there. And I warned my son and his girlfriend, and my mom and my stepdad are going with them. My stepdad is a very racist person. I'll just say that. He voted for Trump 3 times. He's not MAGA, but he's racist. So I said, when I was on the phone with him, because I'm speaking to him again, as long as we don't speak about politics, I said, don't eat a heavy dinner, because you're going to laugh more than you think you're going to laugh, because it has a lot of racist jokes in it that you'll love. And he was like, oh, good. So I said, tell mom not to make lasagna for dinner. And guess what my mom is making for dinner? Lasagna. So I said, eat small portions and then go out for a big dessert. Because the last thing you want to do when you're sitting into the theater with a big heavy bolus of lasagna in your stomach, and then you laugh a lot, that would be uncomfortable. Okay, so we have confirmation 11:44. We got a thumbs up back. So we're good. We are good to go. My man on the inside says we're good to go. All right, so we have about 10 more.
Yes, and just to finish what I was saying, as far as this Utah Republican guy, I just want to point out that the Republicans never act with such urgency when it comes to, I don't know, actually protecting children or making sure that no one has to needlessly die without health care, or a child doesn't have to go hungry in one of their poorly run red states. They never act with that urgency, only to protect one of their own from the consequences of his own actions.
Weird.
That's the party of personal responsibility, who never take responsibility for themselves. They never do.
The party that's cutting SNAP benefits and Medicare and wants to get rid of the Department of Education.
Yep.
We love kids.
There you go, dragging us back. And make no mistake, when they go after the Department of Education and every other department that keeps a functioning modern society going for all, they're going after the pillars of democracy. That's what they're going after. And that's how Democrats, I believe, have to frame it. It's because they're like, oh, government schools. The Republicans have framed the argument too long, and we've allowed it. We've conceded it, Government schools. It sounds bad, government schools. But, part of having a functioning modern society built in the liberal age of enlightenment, you need an education. People need to be educated.
Yes,
and they're dragging us back to the system where the founders, in that system, only the rich, the wealthy, the chosen few could be educated. Why did you need an education? You're going to toil in the fields and get your rewards in heaven. That's the system they're dragging us back to. So make no mistake, that's how it has to be framed. There they go again, going after the pillars of democracy. So
again, though, I have to go back to harming children.
Yes.
Not protecting children. When you claim to love children, and all of these Republicans who are hurting children all have children. And so I understand, like, financially they'll all be fine, and if, like, Ted Cruz's daughter accidentally got pregnant, she'd be able to get an abortion regardless of where she lives. Like, I get that level of hypocrisy, and you want more for yourself. Like, we know Republicans are greedy and terrible and all of these things. You should not run for public office if you don't care about children, except your own. You shouldn't. That's not what serving in the government is supposed to do. That's not why people are supposed to run for public office. It's not supposed to serve themselves. It's not supposed to enrich themselves. It's because they care about our democracy and the common and the common defense and making things better for people. And that's what Democrats do. That's why Democrats run for office. And I'm not saying that they don't make money. I'm not saying that rich Democrats don't exist. But what they do with their public service is actually more focused on the service and the public, instead of Republicans, when they run for public service, all they're doing is serving themselves.
Right.
So, we are now looking, if you just take a step back and look at the system on its face right now, we have an entire political party that has been taken over by a cult mentality that is incredibly dangerous, that has a body count that increases by the day, that has hurt American citizens, and we've said this before and before and before and again and again and again. The United States government is not supposed to hurt its citizens. The United States government is not supposed to bully its citizens, and the United States government is not supposed to take anything away from its citizens to impact our livelihoods. The only thing they are supposed to take from us is what we give, which is our taxes that pay government salaries and then fund government programs that keep our country running. It's an investment in ourselves, just like Social Security that we pay into is an investment to protect our future and our retirement so we can live. It's fine. They don't want us to have any of that. They don't want children to be protected and have clean water and air that they also have to drink and breathe. Well, they don't care about food safety that they also have to eat. Like, and none of it makes sense.
Because they live in their own worlds. They, like you're saying,
not their own world with air and water, though.
Well, if Ted Cruz's daughter needs an abortion, she would get one. They have, it's rules for thee, not for me. They will disappear behind the walls of their gated communities, and as much as they continue to exacerbate the income disparity and upward immobility, they are further and further away from the people they pretend to represent. I mean, the House is supposed to be the closest to the people. It's, that's the Senate is, the House of Lords. The House is supposed to be the House of Commons, and there's the majority of representatives are now millionaires, and that's not reflective of the population of the United States. So all they do, and in fact, before Texas started their redistricting dirty tricks, we've already been under the tyranny of the minority death cult for generations. And frankly, I am sick of it myself, because I am sick of being told by these poorly run red state, maggots of what we should do in New York or California or, your state and Washington and the other states that are actually functioning and keeping the economy afloat. And I'm just tired of them inflicting their bullshit on us. And really, the red states, like I said, we're in another civil war, and they know this. It's time for us to really figure it out.
It's crazy, and and if you're just joining us, we're waiting for my Senator Ron Wyden to call us. He is wrapping up a press conference in Northeast Portland right now, and then he'll be joining us to speak about the Senate Finance Committee's investigation into the Epstein files, which we are seeing the slow release beginning tomorrow, coming from the House. And it'll be interesting. One of the things that we want to be focusing on is, how much Republicans have been working, how hard they've been working to keep this under wraps for so long. And the question becomes why. He has to go to work every day with these people, and I'm so grateful that he does. And I don't know how Democrats do it. I really don't, considering the amount of obstruction, not just obstruction, but that there's normal political gridlock, and then there's what we live with now. And we don't have a normal Republican Party, as normal as like pre-Trump, we would not have gotten to this point. Pre-Trump, they would not have welcomed an international war criminal here. They would not have tolerated so much of what Donald Trump has done. But then, of course, pre-Trump, nobody threatened them with compromise and blackmail. So nobody before Trump tried to take over an entire political party to steal an election and take over the United States government. So, there are things that is a different moment here. But what it comes down to is, do you care about America?
No.
Or do you care about protecting Trump?
They don't care about America. I mean, talking about children in general, they ended the Medicare expansion. They don't cover children's health, the children health insurance program. They cut that. I mean, they're literally don't give a shit about gun control legislation. We're the only country that has to deal with... Well, if they ever
cared about children...
Yeah, with...
we'd have a full-on ban in this country.
Yeah, we're the only
if they really cared.
Someone's ringing in.
Ooh. Ladies and gentlemen.
Hold on a second.
Ladies and gentlemen, our patience has been paying off. We are so very lucky. So very lucky to have my senator. He's a good man in a storm. My senator, he's a mensch, a real mensch. my Senator Ron Wyden, the ranking member from the ranking Democratic member on the Senate Finance Committee, has been incredibly strong
Here we go.
on Epstein. There he is. There he is. I met you at the DNC last August, Senator.
Inflationary introduction.
Hi there. Hi there. We are. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today on the Tara Show, Senator Wyden. And what a fortuitous bit of timing.
Thank you.
We know we only have a tight 15 with you, so we want to make sure that you get the bulk of the time here to speak to us. It's Epstein Files Friday Eve. We're allegedly getting some sort of release tomorrow. You, the ranking Democratic member of the Senate Finance Committee, has been all over the financial ties between Russian banks and the Epstein sex trafficking ring. You believe that you have recommendations on how Congress should move forward with this. So what I want to know is, what do you think we're going to see tomorrow? What more can we anticipate coming? And what do you expect to see as sort of a result and the reaction to it?
Tara, thanks for having me and for getting at these issues, because I question whether we're going to see a lot tomorrow. This is more of the traffic that is being coordinated by Ms. Bondi, who of course is the Attorney General, and she has been doing everything she can to avoid the real meat and potatoes here, which is following the money. Jeffrey Epstein was a part-time high school teacher, a substitute high school teacher. And he basically created this global sex trafficking network because he was not just a sexual predator, but he was tremendously clever at getting people to buy in to his idea that he's going to make them a lot of money, even though he really didn't do much of anything for them. And unfortunately, what we have been doing is every time Bondi says she's got something real, we say, show it to us.
Right.
And for example, we have shown that just one of Epstein's banks moved something like $1.1 billion around in 4,725 wire transfers, much of which was used for sex trafficking kind of operations.
Wow.
So our view is, if you want to get serious about this, you've got to take a walk down to the Treasury Department, and you've got to ask to see their files. We have seen them. And basically what we believe is the banks took a pass on this. The IRS took a pass on this. Nobody followed up looking at Epstein's henchmen. Apparently some of them are still alive and out there. And I want the folks that follow this program to know two things. One, I'm going to stay at it until we get all the facts out. And second, after that, we're going to start pushing real reforms like reining in the banks so they can never do something like this again.
Because
That's
the banks,
excellent.
there's a loophole in banking and finance that they ignored the red flags in this situation. Am I right?
Absolutely. The banks are required basically to set off the warning lights on something like this, and they basically didn't do much of anything until it was too late.
Wow. Incredible. And you wrote a letter to Pam Bondi that had basically 7 suggestions for the Department of Justice to follow. Has she responded to this letter?
Not in the least. And she spends, when this issue comes up, as much effort as she can to keep this under her watch.
Incredible.
Because historically not much has happened there. Remember when she said, I have all these files and we're going to bring them out and the American people will find out what's going on. Well, as my dad used to say, baloney, that didn't produce much of anything. But I'm telling you what really is necessary, which is to have people have access to the documents at the Treasury Department. And the Treasury Secretary, Mr. Besant, has been ducking any way to have accountability also.
Right.
Shocking to hear that. I'm just so surprised. Senator, why do you think Republicans are working so very hard to cover this up?
Well, obviously, this is taking place on Donald Trump's watch. In other words, we know that he has access to the files. That is a fact. And clearly they are very concerned about what this might involve, and so they can't really get their story straight. And the more they flail and spin around on it, the more you get the feeling that the public says they got something to hide. Well, there's a way, Tara, to get this settled, and that is for the Trump administration to give these Treasury materials to the Senate Finance Committee on a bipartisan basis. Say, you guys have worked on these kinds of issues in the past. And by the way, so you know, what happened is we got together with the Biden administration, folks, they showed us the files that we weren't allowed to take them, but they showed us, the files. And I knew there was something significant. We went with the Republicans on the committee as well. And then after the visit, I went and said to the Republicans, why don't you join me in a subpoena so we can get this? And they weren't willing to do that.
Weird that they weren't willing to find out the truth about Donald Trump participating in the sex trafficking of children. It's abhorrent to me that they continue to make excuses.
This is, as we continue this discussion, Exhibit A in a rigged system, because nobody of modest financial means could have ever pulled off what Jeffrey Epstein did to go from being a substitute school teacher without much of anything.
Right.
I mean, remember, he started this with Leon Black, a billionaire, and basically he said to Leon Black, I'm a big expert at tax planning and all the rest. And when people got a chance to look at that, they found that was ridiculous too. And even some of the accountants Leon Black had, he said, no, he didn't know anything about accounting.
That's right. So how does he become this billionaire financier he's a substitute teacher that lied about his credentials too? He's a complete fraud, a con man, like a lot of other con men we know.
Was particularly crafty at coming up with ways to get wealthy business people to be part of his schemes. And of course, it is pretty clear that they were interested in all the procurement of young women and all the rest. In fact, Mr. Black basically acknowledged in terms of one of his settlements where he said, I know that some of the money that was going to lawyers that I had was used for sex trafficking.
Wow. What is it just a coincidence that Donald Trump had a Miss Teen pageant that was touring Russia at the same time Epstein was sending these wire transfers to Russia?
Well, the Russian angle is particularly ominous because we only have been talking about one prominent set of materials, the 4,725, but then there are all the ones from Russia-sanctioned, from American-sanctioned banks. And you guys are journalists digging for the facts, and the reporter's first rule is to ask tough questions, and the second rule is follow the money, and we're going to do both.
And where do you think that's going to lead? I mean, when we have a cult mentality like MAGA, and they don't seem to care, because there was just a recent poll that 47% of Trump supporters saying that they will continue to support him even if they find out that he did rape children. So when we get all of this evidence, and you have all of this evidence, what do we expect to see after that? Will there be an impeachment around this? What will the consequences be, if any?
What I'm going to do is two things. One, stay at this so that people understand this is not a blue or a red issue. That's why I mentioned I first got the data during the Biden administration. We could have moved during the Biden administration if Republicans on the Finance Committee hadn't said no to the subpoenas. Right. So we have kept
that's a good answer for MAGA when they say, why didn't the Biden administration release them? And it's like, well, Republicans wouldn't let you. So that's not a surprise.
Republicans wouldn't step up when there was a specific request to join in issuing a subpoena. And the point is, we're going to stay at it until all the facts come out. The follow the money aspect of this, Tara, is that part that is going to produce the biggest dividends. And Pam Bondi doesn't want any of those issues to come out. Right. She wants to control all the information and all the judicial kind of processes to make sure they don't amount to anything. And that's why it's going to be so important that journalists like yourselves help us get the story out and people understand that what we're doing is dealing with a paper trail federal account, information that you can follow up on, not just people who Pam Bondi says, oh, I'll let you talk to so-and-so for a bit.
Wow. What if federal agencies, and I'm assuming that they will not cooperate and provide documentation, is there a recourse? What's your recourse? Is there a plan B?
Well, what we're going to do is continue to say that the American people aren't getting access to the real information. In other words, as we go, people are going to see less and less is actually going on in these efforts that Pam Bondi is always talking about. Well, we're going to work to let so-and-so have access to the judicial process. She's been given that non-answer now for months, since the time when she said, I have all this information, and she decided, nope, we're just going to call it off, right here. Well, I can tell you my investigators have been at this since before the new Trump administration. During the Biden administration, as Tara just mentioned, we have an answer to the fact that we've kept this, bipartisan. And we've said following the money is the way you really deal with rigged financial questions, and that's what we're going to stay with.
Yeah, because the Supreme Court, as we know, gave Trump immunity against the consequences of his actions. But what about Congress using its subpoena power to go after those who don't have that protection in that circle?
Some of our committees are doing that, and I support that. I do think that until you get at these financial, questions, when the facts come out on the follow the money issue, I think justice is going to follow. I think Tara asked, will people pay attention? I think they're going to pay attention to the fact that just one of Epstein's accounts had more than 4,000 wire transfers, and my investigators, they were clearly linked to global sex trafficking. And when people get a chance to get their arms around that, they're going to say, we are not going to just say that's the end of it. They're going to insist on justice, and they're going to insist on reforms, which we'll be ready to go with.
Wow.
And so when we see the first of whatever the release is going to be from the House tomorrow, if there are still redactions, can we assume that they're still protecting Donald Trump? Because they don't have any interest in protecting Democrats. So what do you think that they're going to actually show us tomorrow?
I would be very surprised if there was anything that really added to the debate relating to transparency and wrongdoing. I would be very surprised, and I would think that they're basically going to shroud it over with the same kind of rhetoric. We're going to continue to be open to people's questions and all the rest. It is a bob and weave scene so that Pam Bondi can figure out a way why she doesn't just close her office door and walk down to the Treasury Department. The reason they're hiding everything at the Treasury Department is this would provide for the first time a paper trail. And the history of rooting out wrongdoing in America is following the money. And that's what we're doing.
And for the first time, it just seems that the AG is now the personal attorney for the executive branch. This is a whole new way of government operating. It's all to protect Trump. I feel like that's falling by the wayside in a lot of the conversations in general. She should be working for us, not to protect Trump from the consequences of his actions. And it does seem though that the rich, there's a different rules for the rich, and they are allowed to get away with.
That is why I've said I had a town meeting. I've had several town meetings just in the last few days, and people ask about this, and they say, what is the relevance to us in Oregon? And I say, of course, we hate, this sexual predator, disgusting offense. We feel strongly about that. We also feel so strongly about a rigged system.
Right.
And I don't think anybody of modest means who was without connections could have put together this global sex trafficking ring. And Epstein was able to, because all these well-to-do people and powerful agencies and powerful people who run them look the other way.
Yes.
And I continue to believe that if you chip away at the effort to follow the money here, the truth is going to emerge, and people will ask and insist on justice.
And do you think you're getting enough attention for what you're doing? Because I feel like, of course, the distraction machine is constantly in full effect, and media goes and follows, him up to the fake summit and all that. When it seems it's just a distraction against what you're doing.
I'm convinced it's pretty terrific to have a couple of wonderful people having me on their podcast.
Oh, you're
today.
very sweet. Thank you.
Well, it's what we do here, Senator.
Yes.
My dad was a journalist, and he said, ask the hard questions. And I remember his favorite book that he wrote was a book about the Bay of Pigs, and there's a picture of Castro and my dad on the back of the book. And the caption from Castro is, Peter Wyden knows more about it than we do. And I want to know what's going on about this paper trail that is generating so much support for people who want to duck and weave and bob with respect to
So
I'm going to use that line, though. I'm going to use that line with Republicans, and I'm going to say Ron Wyden knows more than you do.
Yes.
Because you do.
Yes. All right.
And I'm so grateful because you could be looking the other way, too.
That's right.
Yeah, and a couple of their key members had a chance to go and look at the materials. Their staff looked at them, and we wanted to take the next step, and we still do. We still want the documents from the Treasury Department on a bipartisan basis given to the Senate Finance Committee, which would be under strict rules to have to protect it. And it just seems to me that what's going on now is the Bondi operation is protecting people with private interests, and the public is not getting served.
How do you find
we're not going to give up on it.
Your Republican partners in the Senate Finance Committee, are they on board with the work you're doing?
They have been very, very quiet about all of this. There have been some who have objected on the floor to looking at the materials from the Justice Department. I support that as well. I want everybody to understand that I'm supporting all of these approaches. I just think the follow the money one is the one that, if you look at the history of rooting out wrongdoing in America, so much of it is by picking up on the wealthy interests that have figured out a way to duck it. And the Republicans, if you wanted my judgment, is kind of Simon and Garfunkel, the sounds of silence.
How do they look at themselves? Really?
Money makes it a lot easier, I think. And they got Capone on a financial thing. So, and it's money and power corrupting them, and they're putting their personal interests ahead of the country's best interest. They're not providing for the common defense or promoting the general welfare. And this is why we vote Democrat. Because every time, vote Democratic every time, because you're going to take care of things. So, Senator, as we wrap up with you, I'm looking forward to your eventual town hall in my county, Multnomah. What do you see as the first order of business for Congress when you return from recess on September 2nd?
Well, of course, we got to get a more balanced budget. The last round just gave all the tax breaks to the people at the top. I just led a housing effort in Northeast. A lot of people would much rather see help for housing in the community than all these extra tax breaks for the billionaires. So we'll have a chance to start getting a more balanced approach to the country's finances, because the fiscal year starts coming up in a few days, and that's priority one.
Wow. Are we able to do that with Mike Johnson and the Republican-controlled Senate? It seems like
it's gonna be hard. I led the effort to block their Medicaid legislation, which is so hard on 1 out of 3 people in Oregon. And Mike Johnson repeatedly would say that undocumented, people were getting Medicaid, and that's just untrue.
Exactly.
That is flat out untrue. The only thing that folks of modest means are eligible for is if they go to a hospital in an emergency situation. They're eligible for Medicaid. So
that's right. Yep.
I'm going to be real interested what these Republicans have heard during the August break. I've been out having town hall meetings and listening to people. They've been just guessing what voters say, and they don't even have town meetings. So I guess one of the ways you can hide cruelty is just pretend it doesn't exist by never showing up and hearing about it.
It's so sad. And so this is why, I mean, my partner here, Tara Dublin, always talks about a Democratic press secretary. Would there ever be a hope that it's because what happens tomorrow?
We need it so much.
Right. When Comer releases this nothing burger of a release of an Epstein file that's supposed to cover another, just basically another distraction. What will be the Democratic Party's response? I really I believe in what Dublin talks about, having this Democratic press secretary. We have to get the message back from because they're not going to report it on Fox News at all. And we do what we can here on our little channel and all. But it just seems like the Democrats are always kind of like behind the messaging game.
Well, my response is going to be to shout BS from the rooftop unless there's something new that they have produced.
And we will help. Yeah, we will.
We will help.
We'll wait and see. But based on everything I know, I don't see any of the key documents, which are all now under the jurisdiction of the Treasury Department, coming out unless we keep pushing and be making the case that following the money is the only way the truth is going to get out, and the only way we're going to get real reforms. And I expect to be shouting my lungs out tomorrow about that really doesn't.
Well, we'll be shouting with you. What you've done for us today, Senator Wyden, is you've given us even more ammunition to push for the full release. And when we get that argument from all, we're like, why didn't they do this? Why didn't they do that? We're like, because Republicans kept being obstructive. That's why, because Republicans are always the problem.
And they're hiding.
Senator Ron Wyden, I am so proud. I am so proud to have both you and Senator Merkley representing my state, my best interests. I know you're fighting for us in Washington every single day, as well as for the common defense, and you are promoting the general welfare. And I hope we can get you back on the show sometime soon, because this is the energy.
We'll do it until we use this energy for some accountability, and you don't have the rigged system.
Thank you.
I love that. And I love being a Democrat. I could never be anything but. Thank you so much, Senator Wyden. Truth in government for a change. It's always a breath of fresh air. Such a mensch. Happy to have you in.
Great
Thank
program.
you so much.
My dad would say, you're doing journalism the way it's supposed to be done, asking tough questions. Big thanks.
Amazing.
Thank
you, Senator.
That's going to be our new motto. Thank you so much, Senator Ron Wyden. Thank you, Jim, for being the best moderator. Thank you to Peter and John for the super chats. And we will see you all back here on Tuesday, same Tara time, 2 p.m/11 a.m. on the Political Voices Network. Make sure you're signed up for the Substack. Make sure you're following Senator Ron Wyden so you don't miss any of the Epstein truths. Right. We'll see you back here next week. Thank you so much again,
and tomorrow
Senator
night, Tara Buster, 8:30 p.m. Eastern
we'll be watching.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Senator. You're the best. You are the best. Say bye, everybody.